Hello, welcome to Zoe Zizzles. I'm Dave, and this is my review of Q Into the Storm, the documentary on HBO. And after watching the entire documentary, the 6 episodes, I would have to say that I consider this to be one of the most important docuseries ever, because it shows how a nation like the United States, really you think it's so powerful, but it's just teetering. It's teetering, and it's scary, but it's refreshing to realize that really the whole world, we love to think about the deep state and the Illuminati and all these powerful figures, but really it's just people. And people behind the scenes can cause a huge movement. And I would have to say that this is one of the most important documentaries ever, because especially if you're an American and you consider yourself somebody who cares about this country and the reasons it was founded and the hopeful good that it can do in this country, in the world. But I think that this docuseries will go down in the annals of history. If you would have had a documentary about the Revolutionary War, about the Civil War, it would be on that same caliber. And one of the things, after watching episode 6 an hour ago, so it's fresh in my mind, it's so obvious that Ron Watkins is Q. Now, he never admits throughout the series, but he gives such obvious hints. Any person who's ever been trained to recognize a liar, his cues are so obvious, cues upon there. But when in the last 10 minutes of the final episode, when it's talking about how Ron's Twitter account is starting to become big before he was banned, and how Trump was retweeting his tweets, and how a close insider into the Trump group gave him some type of code that could really explode his channel. When he's talking to the director of the docuseries, and he says, for the longest time, I was having to post anonymously. And then he smiles. And then he says, but now I no longer have to, because I'm being taken serious now. Now my own Twitter account. Before I was Code Monkey Z, and now I'm appearing on Fox News as an analyst on OAN or on Newsmax, and people are taking me serious. Ron is a psychopath, and he's a nerdy, intelligent, genius level guy. And his vast array of knowledge, he's read so many books, he knows about all these different subjects, and I think it really points to who Q is, and the pins and the watches and what Frederick Brennan says. And if you look back on it, and I thought it was really cool because I was a fan of Circada 3301, which was this early kind of QAnon. It was a game where you try to figure out things, and it was really interesting. And it looks like those who designed Q took 3301, Circada 3301, and even every 17 years the Cicada come out, so it's another Q Connect right there. And they learned what they did on Circada and just tweaked it and changed it from, looking for more cerebral computer type of people, and said, how can we introduce this to the masses? And Q was that answer. And I think like when the players like Flynn and Roger Stone and Jerome Corsi and Alex Jones, when they got on board, is a way to promote themselves and to make money, and also to get across the political agenda that they wanted to. I think that that's really when it took off. And I thought that those people, and even the general that they talked about with a think tank in Washington, D.C., I think at first they were molding a lot of the Q drops. And then when Reddit and 4chan shut that down and it had to move to 8chan, I think it really gave them a platform, because then they could say, okay, now we have these two guys, Ron and Jim Watkins, who pretty much are dirty. These guys are down in the grit and grime of the sewer system of the internet. And they're based overseas. Their hosting is overseas. And these guys will pretty much do anything for money or fame or notoriety or infamy. And they're like, we can use them to promote our ideology, our political ideology. And I think that's the way it started. And Ron, because he wants to be famous, you can tell throughout the series, he acts like he doesn't care, him and his father both, but they so want to be famous. They thrive off of notoriety. They love when people talk about them because they're narcissists. And it feels good when somebody talks to you about a genius. But I think when Ron gave himself away, because he was doing it before his Q anonymously, and he wasn't being able to get the notoriety that he so desperately needed. And then when his Twitter channel took off and the president started really tweeting him, he didn't need to be Q anymore. He could be himself. And I thought that was hugely telling. And also, I love the way the documentary goes all the way up until January 6th and the insurrection. Because I think this right here, this documentary, I think kills all conspiracy theories. Because what is the thing that the people like to think? They like to think that it has to be a cabal, it has to be a deep state, it has to be an Illuminati, it has to be something big. It can't just be people. Like when a president is killed, when JFK was killed, it couldn't be just this loser Lee Harvey Oswald. It had to be military intelligence, the CIA, because some loser with a rifle can't just kill a president. That's too scary. It actually makes you feel better when you feel like somebody's in power. And just like when 9/11 happened, it couldn't be just a bunch of terrorists living in caves that can attack the greatest country in the world. It has to be insider job. It's too scary to believe that the world is that random. But the truth is, and this is where religion comes in. That's why people believe in God, because you like to believe that somebody's pulling the strings, somebody's controlling everything, but they're not. The world is just random. There are no coincidences. It's just randomness. Good people die, bad people die, good people live, bad people live. It's just random. You don't know what's going to happen. You could be leaving to go to work and it could be over within the next 10 minutes. It's not fair. There's no meaning though. And that's what human beings need. We need meaning. But there is no meaning. That's where religion, that's where conspiracy theories rise from. This need for meaningness. We need meaning. We need meaning. We need to know that somebody's in control. But really nobody is. Because if you look at this, what led to the insurrection, what almost led to the death of America's democracy, wasn't some deep state. It wasn't some vast Illuminati cabal. It wasn't no satanic, influences from God or nether regions. It was people on the internet spreading false information that infected the minds of the masses, promoted by influencers. And some of them pretty high up, even the president himself. And just that almost led to the death of the American experience and democracy as we know it. That's how close. It wasn't no great scheme. It's easy to point and say it's them. It's those people. It's the cabal. It's the rich guys. It's the leaders of the democracy. It's, all of these nefarious groups. It's some hidden group. It's a cabal. It's the deep state. It's the Illuminati. It's not. It's just people. It's just people. And Ron Watkins, if that man can have as much power as he does or did before his social media was scrubbed and Joe Biden won the presidency, goes to prove to you that it's just randomness and it's just infecting minds, and it's education, and it's the denial of critical thinking. It's people who have the internet at their fingertips and a world of knowledge, but refused to do any research. You know, one of the things I think is funny about the QAnon people is they always say, do the research, do the research. They don't do the research. They only go to websites that regurgitate to them the things they believe. And if you do the research, because I've always been one of those type of people that, I don't know, I'm not saying that I'm smarter or anything like that, but it's just like, whenever I hear about aliens or conspiracy theories or whatever, I do the research and then I use critical thinking, and most of the time it just doesn't hold water. And when this whole QAnon thing started, all the way back in 2018, 2017, I was one of the early people on it, but I recognized that it was bullshit. It was such bullshit. You know, I recognized earlier that the Pizzagate stuff was bullshit. You know, I knew there wasn't no basement or no sex dungeon in Ping Pong Pizza Place. You know, I knew that there was no video of Hubert Abedin and Hillary Clinton cutting off some kid's face. I knew that adrenochrome come from a book written by Hunter S. Thompson, and it's just made up bullcrap. And that's just what critical thinking. I know that Lee Harvey Oswald killed Kennedy. I know that a bunch of pissed off Muslims did 9/11. It's not a conspiracy. There is no conspiracies. You know, I know some people say, well, the Tonkin incident, Vietnam, that was a conspiracy. Well, you could go back and say that, the United States government had foreknowledge, possibly that Japan was going to bomb Pearl Harbor and allowed it to happen. Yeah, there's a difference between letting something happen and planning it to happen. During World War II, the United States government did not work in unison with Japan to attack Pearl Harbor. Just like the same thing during the Tonkin incident. Something happened and then they blew it out of proportion. They took something that already happened and then they changed the narrative. That's it. It wasn't no nefarious deep state group. It's just like, hey, we can use this to our advantage. But it's not like they planned it. It's not like they orchestrated it. It happened and they twisted it. You could take anything and happen and then change the narrative. But it doesn't mean that you planned it or you orchestrated it. It's just randomness. Like I said, happens and then you use it for your advantage. But anyone who, and I say watch this series because it is so well done, it is so interesting. But if you come to the end of it and you don't believe that Ron Watkins is Q, then I don't know what to say to you, because it's like punching you in the face. That last 10 minutes, that last interview, Ron just wanted fame. He wanted fame. And he was tired of being an incel nothing on some Chan board. He wanted to be more. He wanted to be taken seriously. He wanted to say, look, people, I'm smart. I study, I've read all of these things. I have a vast treasure trove of knowledge in my brain, and I mean something. And posting this Q was boring. It was fun, it built it up, but he wanted to be recognized for himself. He knew that he couldn't say that he was Q, but if he could be recognized for his own, expertise as himself, instead of being Code Monkey Z, he could be Ron Watkins. That's what made him happy. So hopefully this Q thing will die. I don't know if it ever will, but like I said, if you watch this series and you don't believe it's Ron Watkins, then you're a fool. And so this is David Zoe Zizzles. I hope you enjoyed this review. I say go watch it and see if you come to the same conclusions. Take it easy. Bye.